2, 1.
Right, hello everyone. My name is Yousaf, and I'm the guy that's standing between you and your dinner, beer, Jeff's sum up meeting. So I'll try and keep you entertained. This is going to be a nice easy session. No screenshots, no Xojo, just talking about what most of us live our lives doing. We're going to talk specifically about the relationship between developers and their clients, and a lot of this is the lessons I've learned when running a business over the years. There is a lot of stress involved in being a developer. There's a lot of stress involved in being a client. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I guess there's some things that I've seen that I think make things successful, and definitely some things which lead to problems, which I'll go through. And as I said, it's the end of the day, so relax, there's no code, let's get on with it. So, who am I? I won't dwell on this too much, but as you can see, I started my business in 1991. I had a team of 14. Right now, it's been 30 at times, it's been 25, it's been 2. And I think overall, the thing I would say is that everything that I'm about to say is my opinion. It's not guaranteed to work for you. You'll always have your own style and experience to do things, and your clients may well not be like mine, but what I think the gist of today is that this shouldn't really matter. It shouldn't really matter what your clients are like. And you know, for me, this would be a success if it just makes you think about your next project, how you add the next feature, and go from there. Right, so how many of you have seen this picture before? I think, personally, this is surprisingly accurate. In that I think that there is a great disparity between the groups of people that we call programmers and users, and not just on a kind of what kind of person they are, but just generally how they see each other. And it's a prime example of how you see somebody that you don't understand. I guess if just in terms of who we have here, from these conferences, I know there's many of you that develop. It's your life, developing into your life. Some of you get up in the morning and just go and do a bit of development for a living, and some people do it solely for pleasure and don't necessarily get paid. The thing that all those things have in common is that there's a client involved somewhere, and whether you run a consulting business, whether you sit at a desk and work for somebody, or whether you build things for yourself, there's always a client. You know, even the poor kids who have to use the crazy things you build at home are your clients. And whether you like it or not, how easy a life you have depends on how happy those clients are. 100%, there's no doubt about it. And while we may not think that how happy our clients are is within our control, I think it's almost entirely down to us. I mean, there's a great phrase which is you can't change somebody else, but you can change yourself. And I think in the world of customers and clients, everything is a dance. You could stand, if Fred stood up and I said, Fred, I'm going to make you fall over, or I'm going to make you take a step back. I couldn't stand here and make you do it. But if I move and start walking towards you, you'll probably move. And it's the thing that changed was me, not you. So, what clients want. Once this slide is done, we're done. I think clients are much simpler than we think. They do want much simpler things than we might think, and we're very technical guys developing all sorts of stuff. But I think it boils down to a few simple things. Ultimately, the client just usually wants a successful project, delivered on time, it works, happy days. They want to have a really positive experience. They want to get this bit of work done. They want to have minimal stress, and they want to be proud of it. You know, most clients are clients themselves. They have a boss, and they want to be able to go back and say, hey, I got this thing done, and it's amazing. They love clear expectations, and they love them to be met. There's nothing worse than things not meeting expectations. And, you know, there's people who work in very different ways, and one of the things I think people miss out on is just how much clients want reassurance all the time that things are on track. You know, they may not be programmers, and you may think that you can tell them where you are in your project and they'll just listen to it, but they've got eyes, they're not silly, they can see what's going on, and whatever you say to them, they'll make a judgment call about how well you're getting on with their task. So it's important to keep them assured that things are on track. And lastly on here, they want to feel that their needs are being understood. And hopefully, as we were discussing a couple of minutes ago, to come back for a new project and make it equally or more successful. You know, how many people here have had a building project or a plumbing project or something done at home and it went terribly and you suddenly become fearful of ever doing any building work. But if you have a great piece of building work or plumbing work, you're suddenly thinking of all the things in your house you can fix because you know it's going to go well. So just to be clear, in case I said it's the end of the day, there's no brains involved. This is what happy looks like in a client. You see that there's a smile there. People usually raise their arms in celebration. And if you can get your clients to the end of the project and they look anything like that, you're doing well. So what annoys clients? Well, you could say simply, you take the opposites of everything I put on the other slide, and that would pretty much be the list of things that I think annoys clients. Clients hate overall, I think, projects which don't work or are late. They do not like negativity. They don't like struggles, fights, or embarrassment. They don't like, negativity is awful in when you're trying to get somebody to do something for you. They don't like confusion over expectations. They don't want to be disappointed. They don't like not knowing how things are going, mostly because they probably spend half their time having to tell somebody else how things are going. And if they don't know, you're putting them in a really bad place. You can even make a liar out of them if you feed them a lie, because it's not your reputation that's on the line when they're reporting to their boss. It's theirs. And they don't like, and I guess this is a little bit like he's telling me it's all going well, but I think it's not going well. They don't like feeling that they've got to tell you all the way through the project what you should have been doing that you maybe haven't seen. So equally well, in terms of clients that are not happy, these are the signs to look for. If you see your clients giving you a look like that, you're probably not doing too well. And that's particularly, they're not meeting expectations. When you've given them other problems, they could even look like this. So again, if you see any of these signs, you need to stop and think. And all of this gets very quickly to a talk about empathy. It is really this whole idea is about your empathy towards your clients, and developers are not known for their empathy. I don't suppose roomfuls of men are usually known for their empathy, but really this is what it comes down to. As I said, these people usually have a boss who's their client. They might have something they're trying to achieve, and ultimately they need you because you can do something they can't, or you've got time to do something that they don't have time to do. This makes your task quite simple. Help them get their job done, solve the problem, make them feel good, make them look good to their boss. Easy. And if you just show some care and attention for their real task, that's that really is the icing on the cake, because your job is the software, and to you that's the task. Their task might be delivering a conference that needs some software to run it. Their task might be building a washing machine that needs a microcontroller in it that's going to work. And to them, your software is just one piece of a jigsaw puzzle that they're probably struggling with other people to complete. It'd be unfair to talk about what we want as developers. As I said, we're human too. I think we are, yeah. We have a list of things that we want. We definitely want a successful project, feature, and a happy and interested client. And I genuinely believe that that is the case. I mean, I think you would, I overhear conversations where that's not apparent, but I don't believe that there's any programmer that I've ever met that didn't want that. The developers definitely want to have as little stress as possible. They want to be really proud of what they do. I mean, look at the numbers of people who get up here to show us what they do. And look at us, no matter how crazy the thing they're showing to us, we get it, right? We get that pride and that willingness to show somebody. So you definitely want to achieve that. We all have a query to know what we're supposed to be building, as in get this done and you get paid and we can go home. And it's always good to have somebody driving a project other than you. There's nothing worse than being the only person involved that wants to get it finished. You know, if you don't have a client or someone, a stakeholder at the clients who wants to get this thing done, it becomes really difficult to work. We love learning new things. We love coming out at the end of the day. I mean, I think most of my team go home every day having learned something new in the day, and I know that's one of the things that keeps them coming back. And you want to feel appreciated. You want to get your high five. You want to be able to put it to bed and start something fresh and exciting. So it'd be unfair not to show what a happy developer looks like. This is a happy developer. Clearly he's a JavaScript programmer because that's not the uniform of Xojo. But definitely we're all looking for that. Anybody disagree? Good. Okay, what stresses us? As with the clients, it's pretty much the opposite of the previous list. A really bad thing is finding out that your client is unhappy and not knowing what to do about it. You know, people who have not high empathy, as some of us do. I'll put myself amongst them. You know, it's doubly bad not to know what am I supposed to do. You know, he's unhappy. What do I do now? We don't like clients who are negative. We don't like clients who aren't really interested in getting this project done or getting it to completion. We really hate building things more than once, and we really hate going back and redoing work or having the goalposts move. We don't like not being appreciated, and clients who maybe don't quite understand what they've asked for, that definitely causes us stress because it puts us in an immediate place of what we should be delivering. And although I just heard about a project that took 6 weeks and ended up being 52, which didn't look too bad a gig given the scenery that was there, we really don't like projects which just never end and go on and on and on and on. Purely because, you know, we want to get the high five if it never comes. You don't move on and that's it. That becomes the key of your life. So, stressed developer, we've all been there. This guy's clearly quite stressed. He's so stressed that his laptop logo's fallen off. And he's there. So I think if you were to put all those things together, put the sets of lists together, they gel quite well. If I printed out 4 sheets of paper with those lists on and put them up there, you'd say, hey, I can see the answer to this puzzle. It should be really easy for developers and their clients to live happily ever after together. clients have this requirement which we should be able to fulfill. Developers get satisfaction out of fulfilling problems. You've all got some cases where this has worked, and equally well we know that sometimes it doesn't work so well. I think based on that, let's go through and look at some of the simple rules that can help you to hopefully make it work every time, and that's going to be the rest of this talk. So, what can we do? Well, the first thing you can do when working with your client is set your expectations properly. Agree a specification. Try to get as close as possible to an agreed spec. Talk about the system that you're going to deliver, because quite often, I would say in all of the cases for me, they don't have the vision that we have in terms of what a piece of software is going to look like. They have no idea what it's going to look like. It's in your head, and if you really need to get it into theirs and talking to them about what they think, what does using this system of yours feel like. I've actually got some slides. If I manage to get through this on time, I've got some extra slides on this specifically, so hopefully let's carry on and see if I get there. You definitely want to agree a price. How are you going to get paid? Are you going to get, is this a fixed price, daily rate, hourly rate? And this talk isn't really about telling you that you shouldn't do fixed price projects or work for a daily rate. It is about telling you that it's important that how you're going to be paid is clear. We all know that customers' ambitions often outstrip their budget by several factors, and this comes, and it's not because they're stupid, it's just because they're not software developers and they don't know what's involved in stuff. And don't be shy of not giving prices out when you're asked, immediately in 10 seconds. You really need to go away and think about it. If there isn't a price that gets set that you're not setting an expectation for yourself. So if you start talking numbers before you really understand it, you're not doing yourselves any favors. Timelines are important. You need to agree a timeline, but you don't necessarily need to know what it's going to be delivered on this day. Sure, there'll be projects where there are external demands, like I mentioned the conference before. If the conference is starting on the 1st of May and they need a booking-in system, unfortunately your project needs to be delivered sometime beginning or mid-April to not put that client under stress. But then there are other projects where who knows when it's going to finish, because it's slightly open-ended. Again, you're setting the expectation, but do really go to a lot of trouble to find out what the dependencies are and if there are any external demands. I think it's very important to set expectations from the client about themselves. Clients that don't become involved are not great to work with. And I always find that meeting a client as often as possible, although quite painful in some cases, is very important. It's very important to keep a constant communication with your clients. It definitely gives you a target to aim for. I've put here once per week would be my minimum. If it's a big project and you're not meeting once a week, I think you could be in trouble. I kind of apply this across the board, even with my team. I try to keep a mental number with my clients and my team to say, okay, how long am I willing for that guy to work without me checking what he's doing? For some members of the team, it could be 2 days, could be 3 days, could be a week. For other members of the team, it could be 3 hours. And it's really important, and I think the same goes with clients. They've definitely got that view of you, even if they don't say it or not. And there's definitely a period of time where you hit this time that they haven't heard from you and they start worrying too. So it's very important to meet them, and it definitely gives you something to aim at. Who here doesn't, you've got a client meeting it might be only a tenth of the way through the project, but you're stepping up the work for that meeting. You want to go in there and show them because you want a successful project. And on that front, I think just thinking about what your client contributes to the project is very important. What are they going to do to make this project successful? Are they going to get information for you? Are they going to test what you've done? Are they going to roll out the software? Are you going to roll out the software? How does that affect the timeline? And you know, this highlights the fact that this is really for both of you. It's not just you that needs to follow the rules. The client, the agreed timeline is for both parties. Okay, the next thing is technology. I mean, we've all gone to these tech conferences. My tip would be, don't use technology you don't need. Don't use technology you don't fully understand. You know, this is, I guess Monday, Tuesday next week is the witching hour of Xojo projects, where everybody goes away with their head full of crazy ideas and starts implementing them in their clients' projects. I strongly suggest that you kick back a bit, have a think about it, carry on with the project the way you were thinking of doing it in the first place, and when you get a minute, play with it. I mean, we really try to grow our team. We really try to encourage people to push the boundaries and grow. But the kind of minimum bar is that we say, look, we're professionals here. If you want to become a PHP developer and you've been doing loads of other programming languages, we've got to charge for you. So you can become a professional. You can become a PHP programmer, but we sell professional PHP developers. So until you know it well enough to call yourself a professional, you're not a PHP developer, and we're going to, you're going to be a trainee for us. And I think the same goes for technology you don't understand. If you're not a professional at these things, that would be my benchmark. I mean, picking up, I don't want to poo-poo using different technologies, because I think depending on your worldly experience of programming, you can look at new technologies and make a much faster understanding of whether that's going to be useful to you or not. But, as I say here, sometimes it can come back and bite you in the nether regions, so you need to be really careful. Whatever crazy technology you might add in needs to be supported by somebody, and if you were the only person who saw that talk and really knows how it works, and then you decide to take a vacation or get stuck on some other project for 6 weeks, you're putting the rest of your team in a difficult position. And yeah, definitely try to be a professional. Being a good listener is definitely a skill you want to have as a developer, and again, something that may be a little bit lacking in ourselves, and I put myself up. I did say that this was lessons I learned, and you're never going to not be able to avoid any issues at all. There's always going to be issues that happen, but the ultimate thing you want to be able to do is to deal with that and keep the relationship going. And this applies to life as well as programming and projects. You need to let client air their grievances if stuff goes wrong. You need to let them get it out. You know, clients, there's many books you can go out there and read about how to deal with grievances. Generally, if you read those books, and I've read quite a few over the last couple of years, the golden rules seem to be: let people talk, don't interrupt them, don't assume that they are trying to ask you for a fix, because most of the time they just want to say it and get it out. Don't get defensive. Don't answer them straight away or dismiss them. Make it look like you've listened, and hold on to the point where they stop talking, and then hold on a little bit more, because the job here is the job here is really simple. You might have a whole bunch of things that you think you want to say while they're telling you about this thing that went wrong. But believe me, if you open your mouth, the first thing they're going to think is you're not listening to them. And I would say that goes in general about anything. So if somebody's got something to say, let them say it. Really let them say it. Chime in, make them think you really heard what they said, and you'll all feel a lot better. And when you do come back and give them an answer, there's some very simple things you can do there. And I would boil it down to simple as do's and don'ts. Definitely give them an empathetic answer. If they tell you something you built causes them a big problem, just say, look, oh my God, that's awful. That must have been terrible for you. I'm so sorry. And sorry is not, it's my fault. Sorry is just, oh my God, you must feel like XXX. And I'm sorry about that. That's annoying. Or oh my God, I'll look at that right away. That's sorry. I'll get on it. Things that are bad to say, and equally this is applies to life in general, is no, there's nothing wrong there. No, you're not upset. You shouldn't be upset about that. It's not my fault. That's not my fault. It's not my fault. Even if AWS changed their SDK in your project, press the button and nothing happened in the cloud, it's not my fault. It's your fault. As far as they're concerned, it's your fault. It worked this way. One of my guys actually said that to a client in a meeting, and he may as well have just got out, a bomb and just held it and start.
That's the best line in your presentation so far.
What's that? Works better that way. And it's really important. I said don't get defensive. Equally, don't get annoyed. That doesn't help. There's people, and just think about it yourself. If you've got something to say to them, they're all the same things that will upset you. There's nothing. If you say, look, I feel really, I feel really aggrieved about this thing not working, and they say, well, no, you don't really feel aggrieved. It's this. You say, no, I feel aggrieved. Everybody will just get even angrier. And don't be shy of not giving an answer. All of those three things that I've said there at the top mean you don't necessarily have to give an answer right away. You can go back tomorrow. There's as I said, there's listeners who are problem solver listeners, and they feel that everything somebody's said to them is asking them for a solution. A lot of the time it isn't. I read a really interesting book. I'll put it in the slides when I give them to Dana, about the 10 different types of listeners that you can encounter. It's very, very interesting, because there seems to be all 10. But anyway, you need to know when to stop. We all get tempted to just put that other extra feature in. Again, I think this is not anything other than we really want to impress people. We're desperate to get this thing out and for them to be thinking it's amazing, so we stick in something else and something else. Just try to stick to the plan. It's useful if you use some kind of project management software, somewhere where you can have a shared, even just a shared dashboard of what the things have to be, what the things are that need to be done, so everyone knows where they are. And I think overworking is not, while you may feel that working massively hard on a project is good, I really think that overworking wrecks your relationship with your client. You do more work than you should have done. You're setting false expectations about your own value, about the time it takes. Makes projects late. I mean, there's nothing worse than a project that's late and it could have not been late. That's so sad. And it doesn't mean that, that it doesn't mean time that you don't factor to put in some of your pixie dust into a project, but factor that time in. Think about it when you're planning the project. If you know that you want to make that crazy little canvas thing and that's going to be the icing on the cake that really makes them love the software, put some time in for it. Add an extra half day to the time of the projects and get on with it. Some more general tips, just to finish off on this section. Always try to meet your deadlines. And what I mean by that is set realistic deadlines. we all want to say it'll be done, I can do that in an hour, because we're trying to say how clever we are and how much fast, especially when we're using something like Xojo, or we also do FileMaker. You're trying to convince them that using this platform, you can do this in 15 minutes. Be realistic. Everyone's got a different attitude towards deadlines. I mean, we're all aware, I'm sure. I had an interesting conversation last week with someone over flight times. A flight leaving at 7 might mean to me that I need to be at the airport at 5:30. A flight leaving at 7 might mean to some people they're going to be sitting in the departure lounge at 2, and if they're not, they're super stressed. And you just don't know what you're dealing with in a client. So you set a deadline, you don't know what the client's rested on that deadline, so the best thing you can do is meet it. Always try to be the person who can do stuff. I mean, I think in terms of sales and going out to get work and convincing clients to use you, the positivity is the most positive thing you can do. It's infectious. They sit in a room, we've all done it, we've all been there, we've been the main guy, and we maybe get a sales guy to go in for us, or a junior developer. The client's not interested in listening to them. They're buying into you. They're buying into your excitement. They're going to tell you about this thing they want to solve, and you get really excited about it, and they think, oh my God, I really want to use this guy. He's as excited as I am. If you're the guy that's just, oh, well, that's really hard, and I'm not sure if we can build this, that's not going to work too well. Try to set the right price. I mean, again, I've got some slides at the end, which I'm hopefully going to get to, that talk specifically about that. But everything depends on this. I mean, we program for money. You need the job done. You've got to get the times met. If you don't set the right price, you get into this place where, again, you're in the no man's land of development, where you're not really getting paid. There's no real driver for you to finish. There's no real driver for them. This is a mess. Lastly, and this is what the final slides are about in my talk, communication. I mean, communication has been acknowledged over the years as a problem. You can go back quite far in time to talk about communication. I mean, if you just go back to not so long ago, George Bernard Shaw, the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place. You imagine that you've communicated something. If we can move this forward to the 80s, any Spandau Ballet fans here? I think that was number 1 in the UK. And by that I mean communicating with your client and how you say things. Again, I didn't actually see this guy because my business has not been open that long. But as you can see, there's a conversation going on here which isn't working. There's communication and there's communication back, but it's not an understanding. So when you communicate with your clients, when you talk to them, try to speak their language. Try to imagine what they're able to understand. Try to speak as plainly as possible. Believe me, clients love developers, engineers, software companies that can explain things in the way they understand. Every year, every week, throughout my existence as a software developer, I see this true over and over again. If you can make the client have a conversation with your client and they walk away and think, God, I understood everything he said there, you're on a winner. And it's so important. You're not trying to embarrass them about their lack of knowledge. You're not trying to blind them with science, and don't talk down to them either. Don't talk to them like they're 5. Really try to understand what they understand, what their level is, and try to hit it. Try to speak about their goals as much as, this is quite reflective if you look up techniques for having conversations, but don't just talk about the software that you're building, talk about the conference that they're trying to run, talk about the washing machine that they're trying to build. You know, really get them understanding that you understand. You know, express things in terms of not when you're delivering your software. Express things in terms of the way how their whole project's going to get delivered, their own goals, and try to get some understanding from them by explaining, not by saying the same thing over and over and over again because you think they didn't get it. You know, if you have to say something twice, you probably just need to think about a different way of saying it because they didn't understand it the first time. So they probably won't understand it the second and third and fourth and fifth. So on this, finally, an important factor I think in happy relationships with clients is actually being willing to rate the client yourselves, even make a judgment call as to whether they become your client, not just saying yes to everyone. Think about what's the situation that the client's in. Have they ever done a software project before? Have they ever designed software with anybody? I mean, that makes a big difference in how they're going to work with you. Is your project dependent on the client? Does the client need to do something for you to have a successful project? Is the client willing to test your software? Is it really important to them? I mean, I did a talk at a conference a few years back, which said, basically, if your project did not have a high-level key holder, it was very unlikely that you were ever going to make some change in that business. If your software involved change, and the boss wasn't involved, I've never seen an IT manager invoke change in a business. It doesn't happen. The IT manager says, right, we've all got to work like this. No. The boss says, we've all got to work like this. It tends to happen. So whether, don't be shy of us. I do it just automatically now, just saying, right, is the CEO aware that this is going on? Financial director, I mean, he's paying the bills. Do they know about it? What do they think about it? And whether there's somebody there who can be your main contact. You need to have we had a guy going back 10 or 15 years called Paolo, who works at one of our clients. Believe me, if Paolo was not there, the project would not be successful. And for the past 15 years, somebody comes back from a client meeting, first question somebody asks is, who's Paolo? Who's Paolo in this project? Because you need one. And it can be really painful if you don't. I've got a few more slides. So I've actually got a thanks for listening slide, which I'm going to skip, and I think I've got time to finish up properly. So specification. I talked a little bit about pricing. Getting a spec and pricing is pretty important, and we've all been there. You get the client wants some software delivered. You talk about it. You're faced with a few problems, right? The client is not sure what they want. They're not sure what can be done. The client has absolutely no concept of how difficult anything is. The client is always telling you that he's had somebody else tell him he can have the job done cheaper. Or he's had another Xojo developer tell you can develop it in 15 minutes, not 20. The client wants a fixed price. As I said, the client hasn't developed software before, so what do? I mean, we could all have a think about this. There's enough people in the room. We can try. Let's try an example of this. So you're all used to quoting for projects. Think about this one. You've got I need a Xojo web project, and I'm already giving you quite a lot of information there because I'm telling you it's a Xojo web project and I'm not asking you whether this should be built on Xojo web. But it's for the customer service team, it's to log telephone complaints, inquiries, there's going to be 20 people using it. Everyone's either got a Mac or a PC, and these inquiries are all going to come in on the phone. So, how much do you charge for it? Can anybody give an answer? Anybody willing to put their hand up and give me a price on that?
Not enough information.
Not enough information, right. How long do you think it's going to take to build that? Not enough information. And this is quite a simple thing, but how do you get two people, going back to my original, how do you get the spaceman and the caveman to mesh and get enough information to get this project out? Well, one of the ways that I've been trying to get our team to think about it is to think about what the software is going to do in terms of something I call traits. So everybody always talks about features. I think features are quite dangerous because you can say it needs to do this, it needs to have this feature in it, but it's not really telling either of you about the expectation of just what that looks like. Because remember, they can't do what we can do and imagine a piece of software. I mean, if I sit here and I bet as I was reading that out, half of you are drawing a mental picture of this software already. You're already thinking about what it's going to look like. They can't do that. So what are traits? Traits are a way of thinking about how the software will feel. I think I said this right at the beginning. And they're a very good way of explaining what you think what you're going to deliver. And really, they're there to protect everyone. So if you go back to my project and I said, how much would you charge? How long is it going to take? And then I showed you this diagram. Does that help you understand the expectation a little bit more? So this project that I'm asking you for, it doesn't need to have any branding. It doesn't need to, it can just have a raw interface. The interface doesn't need to be so easy to use that the clients don't have to be trained at all. There's no data validation needed in any of the fields, and there's no reporting needed in any of the fields. And already, if you gave, let's say you did give your client a price, if you gave them the price with that piece of paper, suddenly you've stopped a lot of arguments and conversations, because you could have given them that rock bottom $100 price, but you've also set an expectation there. I mean, we've all been there. Some of you deliver a piece of software and suddenly they say, well, but I expected this to look better and this is too difficult to use. And a lot of that is because you didn't explain where you were going in the first place. I mean, if you imagine now your price, how would you change your price if this happened? If the client says, oh, actually, I want full data validation. I want every field not to be able to accept something which is wrong. And actually, I need some reporting in here. I need to be able to print invoices. Makes a difference to the price, right? But if no one said it to start with, you're out there. I mean, those were traits in terms of the interface and just how it feels. If you even talk about project rollout, which is called AS out many times, are you going to is the client going to collect all the information you need for you, or do you have to go and fish it out of the business yourself? They want documentation. Are they expecting to get any? Are they expecting any training? I mean, they're expecting no training for all the staff. I guess something like train the trainer would sit somewhere in the middle. And are they expecting to pay you by the hour for every single thing that you need to fix? Or are they expecting you to come back and fix this for free forevermore? All of these things, again, if you think about this project and you'd given me a price, if I changed my settings to that, all of a sudden, would your price change? Definitely would. But in fact, if you think about it, what we've done there is we've changed the price and altered an expectation to go with it. So if we give a client a price and a list of traits of this software, or maybe even ask the client to fill in a sheet of traits, you know, just say, right, what we do when we do a project, we have no idea what you get in mind. So have a skim through this and tell me what you're thinking. You know, what's your feeling on branding? And you can give them a little sheet of paper that explains what all those things mean. You know, do you want to go from no training to train the trainer? Let them fill it in. And then you can go back and give them a price. And this stops all sorts of arguments. It stops the whole arguments. it gives them a benchmarks, it stops them coming back with that guy who says he can do it for nothing, because you can just say, great, the guy who says he's going to do it for $500, what's the traits that he's going to deliver? And you get him to fill in the boxes too. Because suddenly there's something in plain English to benchmark it against. So that, I think, I mean, I'd love if I ever get the chance to just start a little website with this and build it up and just give it away as a toolkit, because I think it really highlights how explaining things helps. And we've been using this, and believe me, it works. It really does work. Clients do, you can give them a price, and then they look at, and I tell you what, when you're infectious and you're excited about the project, you know what happens? You get your trait sheet, and the client's looking at it, and you're thinking, oh my God, is he going to accept the price? Is he going to accept the price? And the client says, do you know what? I think we should up this one a little bit. I think I don't really want a number 1 on that. I want a number 3. And it's great. You can put your price up, and they've asked you to, because there's absolutely no way they're going to, especially if you went back to this UI one, there's no way the customer's going to say, well, actually, do you know what? I need some data validation. There's no way the client's expecting you to do that for free. It's laid out, and it's laid out in such a way that you haven't even had to say it. So that's my little thing. I'm glad I got the time to stick it in at the end there on pricing, which is quite an important thing. And I'm going to jump back to, as I say, they ask you to dial up the traits. And I can get back to this slide. Thanks very much. And have you got any questions? Bob?
How many traits trait areas do you generally have?
Well, we actually sat down in an off-site and wrote down a list of about 100 of them. But and I think in fact I did have double the amount of traits in this presentation this morning. But I don't think you need that many to. You can have all sorts of traits, but just having a few gives you a good indication of what's expected. And I would probably say have something that's understandable, where they haven't, we all hate filling great big questionnaires in. We've done these medical questionnaires where there's 1,000 questions. 5, 10 simple questions. And if that means you feel like you want to give them a few more questions after, fair enough. But I think, the game really to start with is to make them feel good, because I guarantee you, what happens with us when we go and talk to them about that, the first thing they say, oh, the other guys didn't ask us anything like this.
Yeah.
The other guys, they look at that and think, how can the other people know what I want when they haven't asked me this? So it's not the quantity.
And I would say the other good thing about it is it gets the client thinking about these things.
Absolutely.
Get them involved.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, if they haven't built a software project before, how would they know? And we work for clients. You tend to get pushed on things that your client's been stung by in the past. If your client's been stung by documentation will become the most important part of your project for no apparent reason until you find out what happened previously. If the client got stung by warranty and bug fixing, that will be your life. It doesn't matter. You could do anything else right or wrong in the project, and all they'll see is bugs and bug fixing. So I think mapping that out does set their expectation. You're right, Bob. There. Any more questions?
I have to say I really like that approach. What I've done in these circumstances, because they affect us all, is when you go in and the guy says he wants a red car, right? But what is it? Is it a car you pull with a string? Is it a new Mercedes? What is the red car?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They once you get them in that conversation, you've made it much more specific here. Then you've got a dialogue that you can build on. Without doing that, when they think red car, you have no idea what they're going on.
Well, that's it. That's it. I shied away from putting up that. We've all seen the diagram with the tree, I take it, where what the client was thinking of, what the developer heard, what the salesman sold them. It's so true.
I've got another analogy that I use, the three blind men describing an elephant. One has a hold of the tail, one has a hold of the trunk, one has a hold of the leg, and they're each describing what an elephant looks like, and it's up to the developer to see the big picture, and they kind of relate to that too.
Yeah, yeah. But it makes them feel involved. It makes them, quite often, the client will go back to their own team and say, guys, we haven't thought about this enough. You know, what do we want in this? But at least you've got some expectation. Any more questions? No? Well, I'll let you get back to your to Jeff's ending speech. So thanks very much. Thanks for listening.